read out? Order, order.
The draft Climate Change Levy, Fuel Use and Recycling Processes Amendment Regulations 2026.
I call the Minister to move the motion.
I beg to move that the committee has considered the draft Climate Change Levy, Fuel Use and Recycling Processes Amendment Regulations 2026. It is a pleasure to serve on this committee with you as Chair, Ms Vaz. The draft regulations before the committee today exempt electricity used in a word I know I'm going to struggle to say repeatedly, electrolysis, to produce hydrogen and natural gas used as a source of carbon dioxide to produce sodium bicarbonate from soda ash from the Climate Change Levy. They do this by expanding the Climate Change Levy non-fuel use exemption to include these new processes. The CCL was introduced in 2001 with the purpose of encouraging energy efficiency across our economy by taxing energy supplies such as electricity or gas. From the outset, the tax has included a non-fuel use exemption. The principle behind this exemption is that when fuels are liable to CCL are not used for energy, they should not be taxed as if they were. Today, that principle needs to be applied to two modern industry realities not presently included in the exemption. First, when produced in the low-carbon way, hydrogen can help power the UK's clean energy transition, supporting our 2050 net zero ambitions. One key method of hydrogen production is electrolysis. In this process, the electricity is not used as a fuel, as it is the feedstock that enables the chemical reaction. Yet without this change, electricity used in this process would be charged CCL in most cases. Second is the chemical process that converts soda ash into sodium bicarbonate. This is a new production technology where natural gas performs two roles. It provides heat, but also serves as an essential source of carbon dioxide needed for the production process. Where a taxable commodity is used partly as fuel and partly for a non-fuel purpose, the non-fuel use exemption is intended to accommodate such mixed uses. Yet, as things stand, the natural gas used will attract CCL, despite its partial non-fuel use that is fundamental to the chemistry involved. Similar non-fuel use processes in soda ash production are already exempt from CCL. The Government is satisfied that it is appropriate to add this use of natural gas to the exemption, which will help ensure alignment and consistency across industrial processes, as well as support this part of the chemicals sector. These changes deliver on the Government's commitment at Spring Statement 2025 to remove CCL costs from electricity used in electrolysis to produce hydrogen, and I commend these regulations to the committee. That'll do.
Very good. You came just in time, just for that. The question is that the committee has considered the draft Climate Change Levy, Fuel Use and Recycling Processes Amendment Regulations 2026. I call Shadow Minister James Wild.
Thank you very much, Mrs Vaz, and I'm grateful to the Minister for setting out the scope and the impact of this measure, and we support the approach to update the regulations to put beyond doubt that electricity used in electrolysis processes to produce hydrogen will count as non-fuel use and therefore benefit from the exemption from the levy. And I also acknowledge the inclusion of the production of sodium bicarbonate came as a result of the consultation. So there we have it, a government that listens. Sadly, there are a host of issues, Mrs Vaz, that I could talk about if they were in the scope of the committee, from the farms tax to the jobs tax, where the government has not listened yet, but we live in hope. I don't propose to detain the committee unduly, but there are a couple of points that I would like to raise. The consultation proposed three options to deal with this issue, as honourable members will know. And in selecting option A, the government justified that on the basis that it was the quickest to implement, which is a sensible procedure to adopt. However, option B did have support for a broader category of methods to produce hydrogen. And can the Minister confirm the proposed timetable to consider the broader treatment as part of the wider review of the climate change levy, which the government has committed 2. And I simply note that the finance bill that we discussed in committee increases the overall levy, adding £2 billion in total to the cost on British industry. And the second point I wanted to raise was on the costings within the tax information impact note, and the explanatory notes refers to this as having a negligible impact. Given the ambitions for hydrogen across the economy and ramping up of production, does the Minister have any projections that he can share looking forward about the potential benefits that this could have to the sector? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, Chair, and I thank the Honourable Member for his questions. And I always enjoy listening to him. One day, I'm sure I'll do it on a bumper car in his constituency. Those of you who weren't in Finance Bill won't know the reference there. I'll have to update others after Chair. On the timetable for the wider review of the CCL, we will conduct that review as swiftly as possible. It is important that we keep all of our taxation policies under review, and not least given the changes that are taking place in the economy. I think it was right that the government consulted on these changes earlier in the year, and we'll be continuing to listen to various industries that are affected by the CCL. We did choose to proceed with the option that he outlines, in large part because we did want to make sure we could bring this change in as quickly as possible. We know that industry have been asking for this, thought it would support them in the move towards using low carbon technologies and processes, and we wanted to implement that as swiftly as possible. It's my understanding, Madam Chair, that these, if the committee does agree to these changes, they'll come into effect immediately, as of tomorrow, in fact, which is good and very swift now that we finally got here. There was one other question which I'll have to respond to him after the committee, because it's full now, my Chair.
The question is that the committee has considered the draft Climate Change Levy, Fuel Use and Recycling Processes Amendment Regulations 2026. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.